Everybody's heard of Uber nowadays, right? It's almost like the word Kleenex. Kleenex means any type of tissue. The innovation I'm really excited about is the gig economy, and in particularly how algorithmic management is changing the world of work. The genesis of the gig economy comes from ancient roots. So when you think about the original type of gig work, those are spot labor markets. So those were folks at the dock who were waiting for a ship to come in and do work. Similarly, you had women working in their home doing piece rate work on a loom, and they would sell it to peddlers who came by. That's called the putting out system. So there's a combination of this short-term spot labor market that then gets coupled with the rise of technology, particularly GPS and algorithms that can make these fine-grained decisions. The conversation that was happening right before you had Uber and all these tech companies coming into pause was the sharing economy. And this was the idea that we wouldn't have to buy expensive power tools or lawnmowers anywhere. There'd be some sort of communal setup in our neighborhoods where we can sort of borrow these assets and then return them when we didn't need them anymore. And then lastly, there is a magic in Silicon Valley and the technical innovation with this idea of moving fast, breaking things. So you have these four things: the spot labor market, sharing economy, algorithmic management, and really just the ethos of Silicon Valley coming together that gave birth to the gig economy that we know today. When we think about the innovation that companies like Uber are doing, they're actually changing labor markets. They allow people who are on the edges, who maybe can't find entry into the traditional labor market, have a way to earn income on a sort of as-needed basis. And what it's also done for the modern consumer is it's brought in a very high level of convenience. I think in the short term, there are questions about, will these companies turn a profit? It's really hard when you look at some of the low costs they are offering some of these services at. Will you actually have enough consumer demand, or will you be able to have consumers feel comfortable paying more? I think if we're looking at the longer term, as these companies grow, particularly in lower and middle income countries, they need more infrastructure around them. So that's going to lead companies like Uber to sort of create more of these almost like cottage industries around them to be able to help support their core businesses. And if that happens, will the gig economy actually end up looking more like traditional industries that we know of today or from the 90s or the aughts? So that's something that I'm looking for in the long term. Like, as the gig economy grows, what is the other organizational scaffolding that has to grow around it to allow it to continue to flourish?